Hello guys, this is Starlight Studio and I wanted to talk about something a little bit different. Well, it's kind of the same and kind of different at the same time. You'll understand when I get into it. So let's talk about it. I was actually recently watching a movie and I love how they throw things into movies, and if you pay attention, you can learn something from anything. I like to talk about this a lot, and one of my things I definitely love doing is watching movies. Um, I don't really collect them or anything, but definitely love watching a good movie or a good show or something like that. But like, it's not always the case, and it's not always accurate or whatever. But like, there's some truth or truth behind the story that they're telling you, or a reason why they're telling you the story, or whatever have you. But anyway, I was watching this animated movie called Rio, and the story is about this macaw that gets taken out of its natural habitat and then is quote unquote domesticated, and basically because of that he is now quote unquote disabled, or not disabled, but yeah. I'm pretty sure that's kind of sort of what they were going with there. Um, I don't know if disabled is the right word, but disadvantaged, I guess. Anyway, so the bird wasn't able to fly, and there's a couple of things, and then like they don't. I don't think they get into it in the first movie. I think they talk about it more in the second movie, but like he doesn't know how to be a bird, and then like he's slowly like he's slowly being accepted by the other macaws that they discover in the second movie, and I actually kind of like the second movie better than the first movie, but overall the story is like kind of interesting, and I like when they use animals to explain things like that. It's not too dissimilar from Finding Dory, where the primary catchphrase, or whatever you want to call it, in that movie was cats. Uh, what was it? Cats. Oh wait, Cats Recovery Release or something like that. And the sad truth, and then this is kind of a side note. The sad truth is is a lot of animals in that scenario can never be released because it takes them too long to recover. They end up becoming quote unquote domesticated, or they can't reacclimate back into the natural habitat or the community of animals that they were living with, if a family group or something like that. And it got me thinking if there's an analogy to some of my experience. And this work with me here. But anyway, so um you can basically I think you can basically associate it to um school being a quote unquote natural habitat. And one of the things that I had to go through is I had to go through different schooling. So by being taken out of my school, it actually made it really hard for me to adjust each time. And I don't know if anybody ever truly understands that. Like every time I had to adjust to a new grade, and then one thing that helps students normal adjustment is that they stick with the same group of people, or the same group of people their age, or some same group of people that they know, and hopefully as they get older and they age out of elementary school, they can stick with a good amount of their friends in middle school and so on, and depending on the communities that they go to. Like a small town, for example, they probably know everybody. Um, I actually remember middle school wasn't even that big of a deal for me because I went to 5 different elementary schools. Once I got into middle school, I stayed with I really didn't know anybody at all, which was, I guess, in a weird way, I suppose it was towards my advantage, I suppose, because then I just kind of focused, excuse me, I just kind of focused on my education, and then I just kind of focused on my school, and just whatever I had to do, keeping my head down, and whatever nonsense that middle school came with anyway. It's kind of odd, but I don't really remember middle school all that well. I remember elementary school pretty well, and I remember high school really well. But as far as middle school goes, I remember 8th grade, and I think that's about it. This is all kind of blurred together. I remember certain things I did during middle school, but like not anything in particular. Like not like I don't know. Like I said, this kind of felt like if you were to ask me, it feel like I was in middle school for 1 year and then I went straight to high school. That's how it feels. I'm sure that's not true, but yeah. Well, I know that's not true, rather, but yeah, it's just kind of bizarre. But anyway, I was talking about acclimation, and there's one thing that kind of funny happens, and not only did I have to get acclimated into 5 different elementary schools, but I also had to make the shift, the transition from a resource school or a special education school, whatever you want to call it, to ordinary school as well. And then I had to transition from ordinary school, which was inclusion, into a different type of inclusion in middle school. More about that in the last video I just made if you want to learn more about that. Excuse me. I'm not gonna go over it again too far, but yeah, that's just a little bit of the basics from my last video. But so if you're interested in that, I have another video about that. Excuse me. So anyway, and I know yeah, I'm not really trying to make any real comparisons here. It's just kind of like this is something that kind of occurred to me. Like I wonder if like in this movie in Rio, right? Like they caused the macaw to have a disability. So like the doctor said, and I quote, "Oh, maybe he's too domesticated." So like I think that was a reference to like he hasn't been socialized properly. He wasn't raised properly, and so on and so forth. So basically, it's an old question from psychology a long time ago, nature versus nurture. So yes, there are disabilities for sure, absolutely, 100%. But I wonder how many quote unquote disabilities are caused by the nurture aspects of our lives, and that's what my post is about today. And it seems to me, and I've done my own personal research. I've talked about this before, but this has been my entire life, so this is literally from my own personal experience. And I've also done some own personal research as well as a professional to some degree. And I've gone into college, and yeah. Anyway, I have more than enough frame of reference. But this seems to me that the entire structure, in order to help people with learning disabilities, and hopefully they've improved over the years, but at least when it comes to my education, there were definitely some things that were really weak. Basically, for lack of better explanation, I was held back. I was never actually held back. In retrospect, maybe that actually could have helped me. I'm not entirely sure. I have to ask a doctor about that one. If there's any research, is there any research pro or con that? And, I don't really want to necessarily get into that specifically, but it's just something I'm kind of just curious about. Anyway, this feels like to me the solution seems pretty easy. Like I feel like I should have had like summer classes or something, or some kind of curriculum to take home with me, and okay, make sure he doesn't fall behind. Do this when you get home, and believe me, I was definitely doing plenty of homework, and it took me a ridiculous amount of time to do the work. But another thing I think we need to assess is what exactly are students learning in the first place. How much are they learning? And let me tell you, I don't know about anybody else, but I spent hours and hours doing my homework, and eventually we asked for a reduced workload, which was something I don't even know how we even came up with that idea. But something that needs to be addressed is someone somewhere needs to tell people what they can ask for and what they can't ask for. Like, here's a list of things that we can accommodate you with. Does any of these things sound like they might be helpful to you? And if do you have any further ideas, then we can talk about that as well. And then I don't know, maybe you have a child educational expert, and they're like, okay, well, he's still falling behind, so maybe we need to brainstorm some other ideas that could be accommodating. So, like, yeah, like, why am I the one coming up with the accommodations? I don't know what's going to help me. As I got older, I got better with accommodating myself and finding the resources that I needed. But even when I went to school the very first time, um, they had orientation, but like it, I don't know. Something about the orientation just felt like, oh well, we have a resource center. Okay, great. We have a resource center. Like, it didn't feel like, I don't know. It felt like, I don't know how to put my words behind this. It felt like, yeah, okay, you guys have a resource center. Great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're not going to be very useful to me. So like, yeah. So that, it kind of felt like that. And then like, and let me tell you, I signed up right away, and like it just never occurred to me to actually use it, and like it didn't register to me that like it was going to be any useful to me, or like because I had a lot of bad experience. Like, no one like took me to the side and said, hey, like, we don't know what your previous experience is, but like the resource center here is actually pretty good. Like, I don't know, like maybe you should swing by, or like they make sure they show all the resource students, like, okay guys, if you're a resource student, then come back here tomorrow at this time. We have another orientation for you guys. Like, I don't know, like, this feels like they just kind of dropped you off in the college and said good luck. That's what it felt like. And the orientation just felt like this ordinary orientation. Like, it just felt like every other orientation that you've ever been in your entire life. It just kind of melted into the background. It turned into the Peanuts, wah 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 wah. Right? Like, it just, you didn't really hear it. You didn't really listen, and you were tired of people telling you things and like nothing ever working. And I grew accustomed to things never working. And you just learn to do things on your own. And that was not necessarily a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And to a certain degree, it was even hard for me to go to the resource center because it felt awkward. It felt weird. It always felt like it broke in the middle of my class. It always felt like I would have to do all of this work in order to do that, and like I'd have to go out of my way to the resource center, and then go back to my class, and then go back to the next class, and then turn in the paperwork, and like it felt like by the time you did all of that work, it'd be like, yeah, I'm like doing double the amount of work, and but like by the time you get to the resource center, you have to go to the next class anyway. So am I really getting extra time? Like, shouldn't I be staying after school to do this? Or, and then that never made any sense. Like, nothing ever really made sense, to be perfectly honest. it felt like no matter how you looked at it, you were kind of forced to still do the work when it was due. And then, like, for me, it felt easier to, like, not do any of that stuff. And I made that decision early on. It felt easier just to stay in the classroom. And I'm like, hey, teach, if I need like 5 minutes, can I take 5 minutes before I go to my next class? And he said, sure. Because I didn't need all of the time that they gave me. I just needed like a couple more extra minutes. I think 95% of the time I finished on time. And I just learned to like do most of it. I would just do most of it and skip anything I didn't know how to do. And anything I didn't know how to do, I just accepted that, like, okay, it's good enough. I gotta be in the class. So I just grew accustomed to accepting a B because I knew that's what I could do within the time frame, and I never really expected anything more out of myself than that. More about that another day. Um, Actually, that's a long story. That's a much longer story, actually. But eventually, when I got to college, I learned that I actually want to do better. It was the first time I ever felt like that pretty much in my entire life. There's been a couple other moments where, like, yeah, I wanted to do well, but, like, that's hard to explain. Anyway, but, like, I wanted to do pretty well in high school, but like I didn't feel like this overly burden. I didn't feel like this overdrive sensation to do really well. Like to do better than I can usually do. I'm okay with the B, and that would be my quote unquote good. But like I really wanted that A, and I was actually really disappointed that I didn't get the A. But yeah, like I said, I'll tell that story another day. But yeah, but my whole point is, I think I just believe that like if I had a better education, if I had some people who actually took me to the side, and I had a guidance counselor that actually worked with me, and I had a tutor and all this other stuff all the stuff that I'm thinking of, like people that help you transition and like, okay, you don't go to class today, report straight to the resource center. We have a test for you today. That way you don't have to go all the way to class and then all the way back to the resource center. Right? So like this felt like the student would have to do all of this work just to get the help. And like it was a lot. There's a lot on you in order to do all that. And there was somebody saying something the other day about people faking. Let me tell you something. From me to you guys. Anybody who's quote unquote faking is doing a lot of work. Let me tell you, it's a lot of work to get any kind of aid, to get any kind of program, to get anything. It's a ridiculous amount of work. And if they're doing that much work, then maybe they deserve whatever help that they're getting. Let me tell you, like, because like this on a normal schedule basis, it's hard for me to do almost anything else because it's hard for me to schedule anything else. Some of the things that I had to do have slowed down a little bit, but this to give you guys a walkthrough for what I have to do every week. So I have a counselor every week. I have a case manager I have to meet with, and I have to make sure I schedule that. I've made the mistake many times where I have double booked people, or I forgot about an appointment, or a doctor's appointment, or because I double scheduled, and I've never really been good at scheduling things like that. I recently scheduled an appointment with the dentist. I already told that story. I recently scheduled an appointment with my primary care doctor because I want to I want to see about this pain, about my back pain, because I don't know, it almost feels like it's getting worse, but that's another story for another day. Excuse me. But anyway, the whole point of today was, I think sometimes your circumstances change a lot, and like, this is one of those situations where maybe privilege does have an effect, because like, I would imagine that like, if I could, if my mom was able to afford a tutor, for example, then maybe I would have been better off in school. This is an example, and of course there's things like that as well, like social class, family connections, friend connections, community connections, community outreach, church or anything like that, any kind of community activities like that, Boy Scouts of America, YMCA, etc. Any community that you can belong to. And we didn't really belong to any kind of community until like somewhere around middle school. And even then, like, there wasn't really that many things that we were a part of. And it's unfortunate, but I really didn't know I didn't really know any of that stuff. And a good friend of mine grew up in like the Boy Scouts, and another good friend of mine grew up somewhere else, and I never really did that. It's kind of disappointing that I never got to do that, but it's fine at the same time. And then sometime when I turned 16, I think I'm gonna say sometime when I turned 16, I got my first job. So I started out as a volunteer, and then I got my job 1 year later. But I wish I discovered that sooner, because I feel like, I don't know, it could have had a really big impact on my life. But yeah, so it's all about, so this conversation is all about life experiences, and one thing in particular that is really disappointing is when I was in elementary school, I remember distinctly going to my mom and saying, something's wrong. I'm learning the same stuff that I learned last year, and there's a problem with that. That doesn't seem right. Why am I learning the same stuff? So my mom and I both went to the school to figure out what was going on. And yeah, it was the same. It's the same. It was the same curriculum. It was like the same curriculum twice in a row or 3 times in a row. I don't even know what it was. And like, it makes no sense. Like, I'm already a student who's falling behind, so I'm going to fall more behind because I'm not learning the correct curriculum at the time that I'm supposed to be learning it. Now, let's assume that I am that I am slower than the other students, but don't make me slow down even more. Like, don't make me slow down even more by not teaching me the right stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how, like, what the right answer is. Like I said, in my mind, like, maybe a tutor, after school program, summer school. Like, I mean, I probably wouldn't have liked summer school, but I don't know. It feels like it's a slightly better alternative. And, like, I think and back in those days, I was really only weak in 2 different subjects. I was strong in every other subject. In science, I was really strong in my science because I didn't need to read it. Anything I didn't need to read a lot in, I did better in. Like science, I never had to read anything because I memorized it. As long as there was a lecture. If there was a lecture, I memorized the lecture, and I never had to read anything. And I always got an A in the class. Amazing. I don't know how I did that, but anyway. And sometimes I would read certain things, but like most of the time I just memorized it, and that was all I needed to do. I memorized the information as we were learning it, and I never had to write anything down. As a matter of fact, I didn't even have a note taker into college, which makes no sense. I should have had a note taker in elementary school. Um, I have I have terrible handwriting. Um, I should have had like not just a note taker, but like I mean, hell, we had computers back then, the big giant Macintosh computers, but we still had computers. I should have been allowed a computer. I learned typing in high school, but like I feel like I picked it up really easily. I picked up typing really easily, and it was like the best class I ever took. It was the best class I ever took because it taught me a skill that I needed to have. And I did have like this spell check thing at some point, but like that thing was hard to use. It was like a calculator kind of a thing. I don't even know what happened to that thing. But it was hard to use and it never really helped me all that much. But like yeah, like technology is absolutely incredible for nowadays, that's for sure. That's definitely a bonus for anyone that needs accommodations. Technology has come a huge way with the speak and spell and the what's it called, the curse world, uh, and all that stuff. The dragon is really good, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff right now. Voice to speak, and there's even I can even have the computer read something to me if I'm getting tired of reading. Um, the voices are never exactly ideal, but it's okay. It's fine. Like I would prefer the voice to be slightly more human sounding. So it's not there yet. I've read that some people prefer the robotic even tone readings because it's predictable, but I want somebody that's like actually reading to me. So like if the AI is reading to me, then I want it to be sounding more human, as if a teacher is saying a lecture, and something and not so choppy the way that computers tend to end up reading. And computers don't take breaks and like emphasize words and stuff like that. So like yeah, there's definitely a long way to go. Basically, I want my AI reading program to sound like a teacher. But basically, so like yeah, like hello everybody. Make sure you pay attention to this. The sun is 365 Kelvin degrees and blah 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 blah. Right. So yeah. So people have a very specific way they speak, and I would like my text to speech to sound more organic. I think that's the word I was looking for. More organic. But anyway, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting thought. I don't know if there's any research behind that. I don't know if there's any studies behind that. I don't know if there's anybody else out there who's come up with something very similar to that. I don't know. I'm sure environment plays a role. How much of a role? I don't know. How much your life experiences play a role? I don't know. Like who is there to help you through those struggles and so on and so forth. Like, do you have a big community? Do you have a small community? Was that community helpful in your growth? I can say that there's been one or two people in my life who have been helping me as long as I can remember. So thanks to them. I'm not gonna get into that too much because it's personal. But yeah, I can definitely thank the people. They know who they are. Believe me. Everyone who's helped me this far knows who they are because I've always been very appreciative of them. Um, so it's this. I don't know, but like I said, I think we have a really weird way of not even helping our disabled students the best way we can sometimes. And sometimes the help can be even more debilitating. Like, I have to spend like hours and hours of my time organizing all these meetings and therapy and case management. Like, that's a lot of time out of my day, out of my week, that I need to be spending on other things, and nobody is allowed to do something for you. And then, like, I, to a certain degree, I get it, but at the same time, I don't. And I'm not gonna get into that too far, but because it's just I don't even understand it well enough, and I get the fact that, like, they want to show you how to do it, but, like, that's not even how the world works. Not really. I mean, people don't do every single thing by themselves. We rely on other people all the time. Everyone relies on other people all the time. So teaching people that, like, you need to do everything by yourself is like, we need to figure out, like, what appropriate goals are. Like, yes, we want you to become more independent, but, like, how many of these goals are actually for independence, or how many of these goals are just because this organization is not going to do it for you? Like, sometimes you have an organization and they actually do something for you. For example, like a lawyer. if I hire a lawyer, they do it for you. So that's a good example, and there's many other examples like that. So there are situations where you rely on somebody doing something for you, and that's okay too. So there should be some conversations about what is okay for an organization to do for somebody, and what is not okay for an organization to do with somebody. And by the way, and it's perfectly fine to show them and teach them how to do it themselves. But in the meantime, while you're waiting 2 years, 3 years, it takes a long time, by the way. And if I'm not learning it, and if I'm struggling learning it, then there should be somebody to help me get what I need. And then, like, okay, well, we're gonna get you what you need. Then we're gonna show you how to keep going, how to follow up, and then, like, yeah. So that somebody should be making sure I still get it. Because I may not be doing it right. So yeah, like, I'm still waiting for my programs to go through and to get accepted. And it should have already been done when I was in school, but that's another story. I don't know if I want to get into that, and I don't know if I want to get into that, to be honest. But yeah, like, I don't know. It's just, we need a way to make not easier, but, like, I think like, life for people with disabilities, we have a lot more stuff that we need to do on a daily basis. So, not necessarily easier, but just the same. Like, if I have to do 3 things in order to function, if I have to spend 3 hours every week just to function, then those 3 hours should be given back to me by somebody helping me out. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Anyway, that's enough for this post today. If you have any questions or any comments, leave them at the bottom. I would like to hear your thoughts. Thanks. This is Starlight Studios. See ya. Bye.